Welcome to Mystara for a long overdue topic, the village of Threshold, the village that gave us the excellent Mastara magazine its name. For a huge number of Mastara fans, it's the first town they encountered before adventuring out and discovering the known world. It's where a lot of young gamers geared up before starting off on an epic quest where they ran into Alina, developed a lifelong hatred of Bargle, and returned with the only treasure on their back being her corpse. It's time to reopen some old wounds because we're headed back to where it all started. I'm Mr. Welch, and today I'm reaching my threshold, staring at the truth till I'm blind. There are several primary sources for the town of Threshold: the Karamikos Gazetteer and later box set, and the modules Night Dark Terror and Hail the Heroes. The box set does have a large section on Threshold, but as far as I can tell it's just cut and paste from the original book with a few minor changes, with nothing getting updated in the time jump. Comparing the main sources, you will immediately find two continuity problems, because this is Mystara. The population differs between 5,000 in the Gazetteer and only 550 in the module. 5,000 is the canon number. Besides, 550 makes the town too small for the Thieves Guild to have all the power mentioned in the book and not completely control the village. The other difference is the module has the town being a crowded and cramped small village with little space between the buildings. The Gazetteer clearly states the Baron requires a 50-foot buffer between each house so the town isn't filthy or crowded. Again, go with the Gazetteer. The exception to this is Windrush Island, which doesn't follow the Baron's laws. It's a cramped maze of buildings where the town guard refused to go after dark. The town's origin is vague. It's not helped by the two different names given by the module Hail the Heroes for the DM to choose from. It's made even worse by retroactively making it an old Nithian colony, complete with ziggurat just beneath the city, in an adventure from the box set. The original name of the town was either Zadrath or Lugzid, wholly dependent on whether the DM wants to put a lost temple under Threshold from the original city founded there. If you wanted to move the lost city of Zadrath somewhere else, then Threshold's original name is Lugzid. The lost history makes things even more complicated because there are Hutakan ruins established with the original map, which means the city was built on top of a lost city on top of a Nithian ziggurat right next to an old Hutakan fort. You know what? Just ignore the Kingdom of Adventure additions to Threshold. They make little sense. They add history that's hard to incorporate with the rest of the books, using a race that was never mentioned in the area by any other source. There's a reason why 2nd edition Mystara isn't popular, so again, just ignore it. Geographically, Threshold is located in Northern Karameikos on the shores of Lake Windrush, the source of the Windrush River. And that's another continuity problem, as one map has the Trolladaran name for the river being either the River Waterold or the River Wolfwold. It's a minor contradiction, so just pick the one you like if your players decide to start speaking native Trolladaran. The village chief industry is logging, with quite a bit of fishing on the lake. Farms dominate the land west of the village, and across the river you will find a semi-permanent logging camp. North of the city is an artificial island, unofficially called Windrush Island, after the lake. It splits the river into two branches coming off the lake, with one branch controlled by a dam and the other one flowing over a fishing weir. A weir is a structure spanning a river designed to break up the flow of the river in order to control it. This one can be moved so logs and ships can traverse the river. About 1,000 people occupy the fishing village, similar in number to the loggers on the east bank. The city is divided into three sections: Old Town, New Town, and Windrush Island. Old Town is ringed by the original city wall, and despite the name, you'll find just as many new buildings as old ones are torn down and replaced as needed. With almost the entire village being made of wood, fire is a constant threat. While the law requiring houses to be spaced out prevents a catastrophic fire, often a building is allowed to burn itself out due to the difficulty of fighting fires in a frontier town. Newtown was created after the arrival of Baron Sherlane and all the additional attention he brought with him to Threshold. Most of the buildings are recent, including the new wall. Windrush Island is controlled by the Thieves Guild, who operate in a strained peace with the Baron. It feels the most like a frontier town compared to the rest of Threshold. Despite its status as the last stop for adventurers before reaching the Black Peak Mountains, most of Threshold is rather scenic. There's not much incentive to raid a logging community, all the wealth is kept inside the town with its secure defenses. The southern approach to the city is guarded by the Kalari Elves. Any attack from the east has to first get past Penhaligon, and the city borders mountains to the west and north. A humanoid raid might be possible, but Threshold is firmly situated in a well-defended location, adjacent to the river and the lake. This allows the village a little more breathing room with its construction. The interior of Threshold is surprisingly pleasant considering it was built in Karamikos' northern wilderness. Baron Sherlane is trying to create a bastion of law and order in the untamed regions, and Threshold is his example. Because of the extra space required to build a home, every house has a yard that is typically filled with either a food garden or pens to keep small livestock. Each home is decorated differently, and several merchants make a steady profit, bringing luxury goods up the river for the city folk. One downside of Threshold is everything is more expensive except food. It's a logging and fishing community. There's no metal for weapons to be made except what's imported. There is a shortage on horses especially, doubling the price of not just horses but for saddle and tack as well. Weapons and armor will run you anywhere between 50 to 100% more in price. There is a supply ship that restocks the town weekly, but there's never enough space to supply an area with more than 7,500 people with what is considered luxury products. Anything that doesn't help with fishing, logging, and farming is considered a luxury good. Considering Threshold is also a major starting point for adventurers, there's also a bit of gouging happening for adventuring and exploration gear. Fogger Island is the one exception to Threshold's peaceful appearance. It was one of the first areas built and predates the Baron's law on spacing out buildings. It's cramped, it's crowded, and after dark, under control of the criminal elements. The Baron's law does not apply, so expect everyone around here to be armed. All sorts of illegal goods can be found by asking around, but be warned this includes slaves, so don't ask around too loudly. There are numerous drinking houses found on Fogger Island, the most famous being the Cross Swords, at least until all the staff died of plague. Now it's left abandoned and is considered cursed. If you want to pick up some adventuring work, the Black Jug Tavern is now the go-to spot, though rumors have it it's under surveillance by the Baron's agents. One danger that no one ever seems to get around to is the old mill, which was gutted by fire years ago but has never been torn down. A new mill was rebuilt in the loggers' camp since then, but the old one has frequently become a nest for monsters. Lastly, there's a pack of were-rats that live beneath the city, but keep their presence hidden or else the Baron would stop at nothing to wipe them out. Other places of interest inside of Threshold include the Town Hall, located centrally in Old Town. This is where city business is handled, as well as holding on to all weapons brought into the city. At night, the building is frequently turned into an entertainment hall where concerts and plays are performed. Cardia's Carpet Service is a magical ferry service run by a retired adventurer. For 100 gold pieces, she will fly you and 2 others to Specularum non-stop. She will fly to other destinations, but the price does go up sharply. She keeps a regular schedule most of the time. If you want to book her services, you need to sign up well in advance. The odds of catching her in town randomly are pretty low. The tallest building in Threshold is the Church of Karamikos, which makes sense as Baron Sherlane is a high-ranking member of that church. It serves as the temple for all of the surrounding area, with 20 clerics working there to handle all the tasks required. There's no other churches of other faiths, but a few individual shrines can be found. Lastly, there's the Hook and Hatchet, a popular tavern with the local guard. If you aren't a town guard, you're not going to be welcome. In the surrounding areas, there are quite a few sites of interest, starting with Tarn's Keep. This is a small castle, more of a manor house surrounded by large walls than a real castle. This is the home of the Baron, found less than a mile north of Threshold proper to the west of the dam. It has a dungeon to hold lawbreakers, though only on a temporary basis. More serious criminals are sent to the prison near Specularum. The Keep's biggest secret is that it holds the nation's mint. This was covered in the Elven Guard video, but to summarize, the elves move precious metals into the Keep through disguised barges, and then move the coins out using specially prepared hollowed-out logs. Very few people know of the mint's location, only those directly involved in its operation. There are old ruins northwest of the town, but it's mostly rubble that everyone remembers being there since before the town was built. While the ruins are nothing more than a curiosity now, they used to be Hatakan in origin during the time of their empire. Now everyone just assumes the old collapsed building was created by the ancient Traladarans. There are even more Hatakan ruins beneath the city, including one repurposed as a temple to Halaf centuries ago that has been lost to time. Threshold is fairly strict in upholding the law, aside from the aforementioned Fogger Island, of course. Baron Sherlane further drives home the point by banning weapons inside the town, aside from daggers, swords, and staffs. Everything else is collected by the town guard at the gates, stored in the town hall after giving you a receipt. Don't lose your receipt. Wearing armor, while not technically illegal, will get you hounded by guards until you either take it off or leave town. If you tell them that you are leaving when approached, they will escort you to the town gates to make sure you leave. Arcane magic is specifically outlawed. Casting a spell will bring down a curse for each violation, with each curse getting more severe. A single offense might get a curse that changes your appearance to something you won't like for a set period of time. A third offense is a permanent feeble mind. If you somehow get that removed and try it again, they will execute you. The Baron doesn't like to be tested. Threshold is meant to be a low-level hub city. It's on the border of all sorts of wilderness. It's a safe city to recover in with lots of amenities, but it only provides so much. It vacuums up excess gold with the higher prices on adventuring gear, but it also provides interior adventures with the shenanigans possible on Fogger Island. The island has murderers, slavers, were-rats, and fences. If you want to run an urban adventure like Veiled Society, you're going to run it on Fogger Island. There's also lost Hatakan ruins around the village, as well as some even under the city. There's a lot of dungeons nearby, including Mystara Castle, the location of the original Bargle dungeon. The village map is almost entirely unmarked. If you need something in Threshold, you just add it. It's meant to be DM-friendly as well as player-friendly. The various adventures placed in Threshold just add new elements as needed. Hail the Heroes adds several sages you can talk to about the ancient history of the place. Night's Dark Terror talks about the large number of taverns you can find in Threshold. though it calls them inns, which they obviously aren't. The city itself is left blank, because if you need something, just add it. It's a starter town, and that applies to everyone playing the game. Next up, we are looking at the Endemic Undead of Mystara, the boogeymen we get that nobody else uses. So play a cleric. But until next week, it's time to get sad and think about death and stuff.